Well, hello there, fellow Curvists. This is Jemmy with Flintstone Media, and welcome to the 49th episode of the podcast. Be sure you're following Curve the Cube on a bunch of social media channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just look up Curve the Cube, super easy. You just type it in, and guess what? You're right there. So be sure to follow, subscribe, leave comments, all of that stuff. Let me know what you like and what you don't like. Hopefully you like more than you don't like. But anyway, and whatever app that you're using to listen, be sure that you're following and subscribing there too, because that's what you're going to get the latest episodes first. So on this episode, it's the 49th episode, as I mentioned, and it's with multimedia journalist Jason Hackett. He is a self-proclaimed nerd, and he's also an anchor for WPTV, and this episode was just a lot of fun to record. We met up at a spot called La Rendezvous on the northeast corner of, I believe it's Olive and Datura. And it's a really, really cool spot. I just wanted to plug them real quick. They didn't ask me to, but go out. They have amazing drinks, and it's like this French theme, but super awesome just place. So go check them out. Anyways, where at that time, previous guests, E.G. Labs, from episode 46, they were having their Vivid Arts app kickoff party. So Jason just joined me down there, and we had this podcast outside, and it was super fun. And we got off on a lot of amazing topics. What we started was with the Corey Jones incident, which, as many of you know, especially if you are down here in South Florida, was another incident that has been prevailing throughout the news in the last year plus of, Black people feeling like they're being treated unfairly or targeted unfairly by police. And so we get into a little bit of that conversation about how he covered the rally, the peaceful rally that the loved ones and citizens had, and to honor Corey and to call for answers. And so we start talking there, and it was a really great conversation to find out what it was like to have that sense of community and energy, but taken in from a reporter's perspective. But also, he talked very openly about what it was like to take it in from the perspective of a Black man. And we both shared some personal stories there, and it was really incredible. He also is open to being a role model and understanding that as a Black man on such a prominent media station, that he is a role model, and he talks about that. And he also speaks very affectionately about every crew that he's worked with, namely those in Iowa, that he had a great time there. And it was really interesting to hear him say how things started off on a rocky footing, and how and when it changed for him. And we also talk about, as we went through his career, I couldn't help but ask him about how he spent some time in one of his first jobs at a very well-known kids spot, which you'll find out which one it is and why it, quite frankly, sucked. And it was really, really funny. And at the end, he ended up turning the tables on me and asking me a question. And from that question, I was shocked and surprised how much we were both able to geek out on this same topic. And it was probably one of the highlights of all my podcasts, just being able to talk about this one thing in particular. And so you're going to hear what it sounds like when I completely and utterly geek out. And he also had me rolling throughout this podcast. I mean, I'm laughing just basically from start to finish, in part because not only is he super funny just naturally, but one thing you guys can't see because it's a podcast, his facial expressions are hilarious. And there were times when I'm just laughing just from reacting from that. So I'm going to be laughing throughout this whole podcast. I hope you're laughing throughout this whole podcast. It was a really, really good time. And I must also say, one note of correction, I gave him some advice, and I don't know where I got the brand Febreze from, why I kept saying Febreze. It's not Febreze, it's Downy. So I just wanted to make sure to change that and correct that in the intro. It's Downy, not Febreze. Febreze is a great product, but I was talking about Downy. Anyways, this episode is sponsored by Janice Massey's Salon, and she's been doing my hair for a long time. She's incredibly talented, but what makes her salon so unique is not only does she specializes in natural hair and does a phenomenal job, but she also makes the experience very warm and welcoming, and she's such a pro and just one of the nicest people I've ever met. So go look her up at Natural Hair by JaniceMassey.com, Massey. She's also on, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, so you can find her there. But go get booked with her and enjoy a very unique and new and awesome salon experience. And I just also want to thank DJ John Hitta for the music bed that you're listening to right now. Go look him up too. But after you're done looking everyone up, sit back and relax and enjoy this, the 49th episode with, like I said, self-proclaimed nerd and multimedia journalist and anchor for WPTV, Jason Hackett. Woohoo! Enjoy. Curve the Cube will now initiate. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
I was just sending you, I was too distracted. I was sending you a picture of me so you know it was me. And then lo and behold, there you are right behind me. How are you?
I figured I would figure it out eventually at some point.
The girl with the recorder stuff. How's it going? Here's your water.
Thank you very much. I just came back from Rapids Water Park with my family, and
so awesome, by the way. So cute.
We ate 2 funnel cakes, and I feel like I was just chewing on cotton for the past 2 hours.
Let me tell you, I took my son to a movie on Thursday. Mm-hmm. Ordered a large. He's 3.5. I ordered a large tub of popcorn.
Right.
Which he didn't touch, and before I knew it, I'd eaten the whole flippin' thing. So I understand about making weird food choices.
Yeah, and they're like, my 2 nephews, RJ and David, and they're like, we want funnel cake, we want funnel cake, we want funnel cake. And I buy the funnel cake, and I end up eating both of the funnel cakes. And one of them was powdered sugar, and the other one was Oreo pieces with caramel on it. And so now I feel like I'm about to die.
Gosh. So. Okay, it's a good thing you're drinking water.
Yeah, this is all I'm drinking for the rest of the day.
That's so funny. How old are they?
Is it bad that I
about to get in trouble. Well, age range. You can get off with an age range.
The 5 to 9 age range. The thing is, I've been away from Florida for so long that I've forgotten everything about that.
It's okay. You're reconnecting.
Exactly. That's why I came back. That's why I'm back here.
High five.
Yeah.
There you go. See? It works out. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for meeting me. I was really excited. The first time I saw you was, of course, in the morning on WPTV. And I was like, okay, so we probably all as humans are creatures of habit, right?
Right.
And I know that even if I fall asleep to something on my DVR, when I wake up in the morning, chances are the underlying channel is WPTV, and I'm going to wake up to it in the morning. Hence, like this morning when I took a bunch of pictures of you, like I was a stalker. And so when I woke up, I was like, I've never seen him before. And I know my WPTV crew pretty well. I was like, where does he come from? And then I saw you toss it to Erica. I'm like, whoa, that is awesome. And if you remember, that was a few weeks ago.
That caught me off guard too, because nobody told me that they can see me and that they can hear me. I thought it was just kind of a generic, I would toss to them and they would just kind of read off of a generic prompt. But they were like, hey, Jason, how's it going? I'm like, what?
I was like, that is so cool.
The folks at the Today Show are actually talking to me.
Yeah, and I felt like, did I just witness a moment in this guy's career? Like, that is so awesome.
No, afterwards, I was like, during the commercial break, I turned to the guys in the studio, I'm like, that was real, wasn't it? Like, they were really talking to me, and they're like, yeah, big deal, whatever. And I'm like, no, that's a big deal for
real,
for a kid like me that,
The Today Show.
Yeah.
I mean, I was speechless, and I didn't know you, I'd never met you, but I just felt like I just witnessed something really cool.
It was a very special moment for me because it's been a long route to get here. Growing up as a kid in Miami Gardens, kind of a fat, kind of a nerd, kind of shy. So if you ask anybody that I grew up with, would Jason end up on TV? If you asked them that years ago, they would say no. Nobody would ever expect me to end up here, and I'm here now.
Okay, so there's a fire truck passing by. Yay, fire truck! But background
as long as it doesn't stop.
Right.
and fight a fire.
Uh-oh.
Right where we are now.
I think we're cool. It's just for the red light.
Yeah, we're used to chasing those up and down the street as reporters.
So I appreciate you meeting me here. Just to fill the listeners in, we're sitting at Le Rendezvous, which is the northeast corner-ish of Datura and Olive, because 3 podcasts ago, go back listeners, I had the Vivid Arts Boys on, and they're having their app debut event tonight. So I caught between 2 podcast guests, and I couldn't be happier. So thank you so much for meeting me down here.
No problem at all.
Really cool.
This is a nice restaurant. I haven't been inside.
This is my first time here, and it's totally dope. So
yeah,
I gotta check it out for sure. But
this is a really thriving street. There's a street artist.
That's part of the event. They're doing like a live art piece and
a bunch of skateboarders, and they're carrying around 12 packs.
Welcome to West Palm, my friend. Welcome to West Palm. And just a little clue for you, because I know you're still a newbie-ish. The street names go in, if you go north, they go in descending alphabetical order. So it's an easy way to remember.
You're kidding me.
Nope, I'm not kidding.
Oh, wow.
So it's super easy to remember. It's like Fern, Avernia, Datura, Clematis, and Banyan. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, works every time.
I never knew that.
Well, now you know.
I get so lost around here.
Now you know. It's a little clue.
So C, Datura,
Avernia, Fern, Gardenia, I think, and then hibiscus.
Yeah.
And don't ask me what I is. I have no idea.
I don't know anything after that. Iris, maybe.
I don't know. It makes sense. So, all right. So I want to jump right into something that was very recent, and I know you messaged me back yesterday. I'm so sorry. I've been super busy and I've been all over the place. I'm like, I know. I've been watching. You've been covering the Corey Jones case, and you were right there at the rally, and I was really curious to know, from a reporter's perspective, what was it like to be down there?
It was interesting. You could really sense the frustration by people in the crowd. I mean, the circumstances of the case haven't fully come out.
Right.
From what we've heard so far, it's pretty incriminating.
Right.
And this situation has been happening around the country, and people are sick and tired of it. And you can tell it was a rally where they wanted to burn things down.
Right.
Go crazy and start. They just wanted answers.
Right.
And that's just something that's lacking right now in this investigation. And investigations take time.
Right. And I know the FBI is now involved.
And the FBI is now involved. People questioning the credibility of PBSO because of recent events. So the sheriff bringing FBI on board. And people just want answers. It's interesting being in that crowd.
Right.
Being in that crowd, covering that, because I'm black, obviously.
Right.
And I've experienced...
So am I, listeners, in case you haven't looked yet.
and I haven't looked. Well, that's good to know.
Most people can't tell from my voice, I understand. Anyways, go ahead.
No, that happens to me. I grew up... I was an Oreo.
Right.
And you probably know exactly what that means.
Exactly what that means. And if you don't, listeners, too bad. We're not explaining it.
No, we're not. Double stuffed. So, I was profiled. I grew up in Miami Gardens. I grew up in Miami.
Yeah.
I was profiled walking in the stores.
Yeah.
I've been pulled over for DWD. For no reason whatsoever, except for the fact that I'm in a decent car, or once I was on a scooter driving through Gainesville when I went to the University of Florida, and I was pulled over heading to class.
Hat on your head.
For everybody not be able to see right now, I'm wearing a Gator hat with a giant logo on it. I wear my Gator pride very...
I understand. Trust me, I've seen.
Yeah, Dolphins and Gators.
I've seen it.
I'm all about that. But I was riding to school on my scooter, and I was pulled over by a police officer who called in 2 cars to back him up, and I'm like, why is this necessary?
Right.
So
do you think you're going to suddenly Hulk it up and be this monster? I mean, come on.
Yeah. So I've been there before, and I can understand people's frustration.
Yeah.
I really can.
Yeah.
And that was the theme of that rally, frustration and just a longing for answers.
Right. Yeah. My brother and I, we grew up as kids in West Boca. I mean, years ago, so there wasn't a whole bunch around, but it was a gated golf community full of older white folks, to be honest. And not only did we stick out like sore thumbs, we got called out all the time. So my brother and I would be, thank you, it's okay, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Free tattoos from Got Ink Studios for the podcast listeners. Go check them out on Google.
I've always wanted. I've always wanted a tattoo, so I might have to take up on that offer.
Well, no offense, Got Ink, but go check out Chris Blinstone's podcast because he's the bomb diggity. He was on that. He was a previous guest, Ink Master runner-up. He should have been Ink Master.
Really?
But yeah, he was the bomb.
Right. I shouldn't be talking about how I want a tattoo. I'm supposed to be a professional.
Be you. And I'm sure they don't mind as long as you cover it up, right? That's the rules of the game.
Yeah, as long as I don't get it like on my face, like my Titan style. Just a giant tribal tattoo on the side of my face.
Or on your forehead that says regerks. No regerks.
Or teardrop tattoo.
Right. So, my brother and I would be like riding our bikes in this community that we lived in. All the time we would get stopped. Like we would get either sometimes the resident themselves would slow their car down and ask where we lived or why we were there.
Right.
Sometimes we would get the security called in on us. And there was a time we were like, don't you guys recognize us by now? Like we lived there for, 9, 12 years. Like, come on,
Exactly.
But all the time we would tell them our address. And I was literally just having this conversation at the hairdresser this morning. We would tell them our address. And they wouldn't believe us, and they would literally follow us home.
Right.
And a girl in the hair salon was joking. She's like, "Well, I would have been a total jerk about it, and I would have walked all over the place and made them follow." I said, "But you know what? Like, our parents had the conversation with us that said, if there's any kind of issue, go home.
Right.
Go home. Just make it home." So that's what we did.
You don't want to get caught in the wrong place.
It's crazy that we have to think like that, but it's true,
Yeah.
It's so true. So, and are you able to absorb that personally? I mean, you're talking about it, but are you able to, when you were there in a rally like that, is there a part of you that has to can separate out the reporter side of your brain and that absorbs some of that? Because I imagine like seeing the people, hearing their words, seeing the signs, like was there something that really hit a chord with you personally?
Just going back to separating the two, you have to retain a sense of, you have to be unbiased.
Right.
You can't let your emotions take over in those situations. But at the same time, that bias can kind of guide your questioning, your way of thinking. You can kind of get into the mind of the people that you're interviewing, asking about the event, and that can kind of lead your questioning. So that does help. The thing that stuck out a lot was just the mistrust of local law enforcement when it comes to PBSO specifically. I was kind of surprised coming here. I knew nothing about PBSO. I've only been here for 7 months.
Yeah.
I came from Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trust with the departments up there. A lot of trust with the... what county did I come from? Iowa seems so long ago.
Cedar Rapids County?
No, it wasn't Cedar Rapids. Why am I forgetting this? I'll remember this at some point.
No worries, you'll randomly blurt it out.
But there was a lot of...
So like a Tourette's moment.
There was a lot.
Sorry, that was so inappropriate.
Lynn County Sheriff's Office.
It's the alcohol. It's the alcohol.
It's Lynn County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Brian Gardner, fantastic guy.
Yeah.
Chief Wayne German over at the Cedar Rapids Police Department, both good guys. There wasn't that level of distrust, and I came down here, and almost immediately, the first thing I was told by members in the community is that we just don't trust PBSO. And that manifested itself in that rally.
Yeah.
A lot of people holding up anti-PBSO signs. One of the commissioners went on stage and mentioned PBSO, and there's just a loud chorus of boos. And I just wish that wasn't the case. I wish there was more trust between the two departments, but unfortunately that's just something that's missing right now.
And the sad part is, I still have to have faith in humanity as a general concept, and as it applies to the police force.
Right.
You have to believe, and I fully believe it's true, that they're only a small number of bad eggs.
Oh yeah.
But unfortunately, those bad eggs just give the whole force a bad name.
Absolutely.
And that's really frustrating and sad, because if you're in a situation where you need that help, any fear of them can cause you to hesitate to make the 911 call or whatever, and then something that could have been helped could end up being tragedy because you don't get the help you need. It's a bad situation. It really is.
I would say 99.5% of police officers are awesome people.
Wonderful.
I've known them, I've met them, I've had them as friends.
Yeah.
But it's that one experience with that 0.5% that just kind of ruins your experience.
It's like getting bit by a dog.
Yeah.
You know, because you're fearful of every other dog that crosses your path.
Exactly.
If you know, I got mauled by a cat, not that long. True story.
I got mauled by my niece. We were riding one of the water slides. We were riding one of the water slides. Not to change the subject.
No, it's fine.
We're coming down the slide, and it was a Big Red. It's the one that at the rapid.
Oh yeah.
And she's not even she's yay high.
Yeah.
42 inches.
Yeah.
Not very tall.
4 to 9-ish.
And I told her, hold on, Naomi, hold on, just hold on, we're gonna be fine. And halfway through the ride, she lets go.
She freaks out.
So I have to grab her so she doesn't go swirling down the drain. And I bang my elbow up against the outside wall, and it's just arms and legs everywhere as we're coming down. And we get down, and she's like, "Ah, it's fine, let's do it again."
Oh, no.
Unless you want me to lose my arm.
Right.
We're not going back on this again.
Poor guy. Well, you were being a hero.
Yeah. Not to change the subject, but I felt like mentioning that because
no, it's fine. It's
still
totally
hurts.
fine. Absolutely. So, so you grew up down here.
Yes.
North Miami Beach Senior High. I understand.
Senior High, yes.
Okay. Is that a big school? I'm not familiar with it.
Back then it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it still is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fairly big school. I was in the magnet program, so we were kind of isolated for the rest of the school.
Gotcha.
I think it was a 3-story building, and the first 2 floors were just normal kids.
Right.
Not there's anything wrong with being normal, but they were just
the non-magnet kids.
The non-magnet kids. And then on the 3rd floor, you had the BEAM program, the biomedical and environmental science program. I think that's what it stands for.
Sounds good to me.
So
I wouldn't know any different.
10 years. And we're all up there, and it was just we kind of were separate from everybody else.
Yeah.
It was such an interesting experience.
Did that make it easy to find your niche there, since you're already in a certain group?
Oh, I thought it did because I'm a gigantic nerd. So I grew up.
You've mentioned it once or twice, but I love it.
I grew up wanting to build spaceships.
Oh, that's so cute.
3 of the 3 movies that influenced me so much growing up: Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, and Ghostbusters. And those are all science
you got
fiction.
high fives for literally every single one of those. Every single one of those picks.
And they all dealt with science fiction and building things and going to weird dimensions and adventure.
Yes.
And I put all those together, and I'm like, you know what? I want to build spaceships.
Naturally.
And I went through middle school wanting to build spaceships, and I went through high school, and then I got to 11th and 12th grade.
Yeah.
And just started failing miserably in math.
Oh, no.
Not completely failed, not F's.
Yeah.
B's and
That kind of
C's.
happened to me too. I had a moment where everything was great, and then it just, I don't know what the heck unclicked in my brain, but it just all fell apart in math. So I understand.
So journalism was always kind of one of those things. I loved reading the newspaper. I was a big fan of the Miami Herald.
Interesting.
I knew, all the writers by name.
No kidding.
Growing up, I really wanted to do sports, and I loved reading Dan Levitard and Greg Cody, some of those guys that wrote for the Miami Herald. And I said, you know what? If this whole science thing doesn't come through, I might look into sports journalism. Yeah.
And
so the whole science thing didn't come through, so I looked into sports journalism.
there you go.
I got to UF, and they. It was between journalism and I was also dabbled a little bit in graphic design. I was really good with InDesign.
Oh, really?
And Photoshop.
No kidding.
I won a national art contest.
No kidding.
And
so hey, we're meeting up at the right place, I guess.
Yeah,
Hey.
I would say so. And I chose journalism. I wanted to get into newspaper journalism. I wanted to write. I wanted my work to be the first thing that people woke up and read in the morning. I wanted them to flip open the paper, drink their cup of coffee, and read something I wrote and said, that's interesting. That makes me think. That challenges me. That encourages me. And then go off to work.
It sounds like a dream that was a reflection of yourself, because you were that person waking up and reading the newspaper going,
Yeah.
and you wanted to be on the other side of it.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
I wanted my words to make people feel things.
Nice.
And so I really pushed for that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine in the newspaper industry, informed me that newspapers are dying.
Yeah.
And Newspaper journalists don't make a lot of money.
Whoops.
Which is not, it's not about money, but I wanted to live a comfortable life and not
Of
eat,
course,
and not eat
you have to
jellyfish
feed
sandwiches.
yourself.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
come on, yeah.
I wanted, basic things like water.
Right,
and bread.
So greedy.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So
way to live a big dream there, Jason.
So I decided to switch to broadcast journalism.
Yeah.
And
did you decide that before or after you left high school? Was it in college you decided
this
that?
is in college.
Okay.
I took a few newspaper classes.
Yeah.
Went through the whole thing. Got all the rigors and ethics. Went through the courses and everything, and decided about sophomore year that I might want to switch tracks. I want to try broadcast.
Yeah.
I want to include pictures and sound with the stuff that I'm writing.
Right.
It enhances a story so much when people can visualize what you're
really
talking
does.
about, hear what you're talking about. You can blend the two into a nicely packaged, and I was into that.
It's funny that you say that because in my notes for this podcast, I noted that because I was thinking about the timeline of your career. And I've interviewed like Jay Cashmere, and I've interviewed Dan Cochran, and a couple other journalists, Sandra Shaw. And for lack of a better way to put it, you're the youngest of the crew. And so I was thinking about the timeline of your career.
Right.
And the fact that, so Facebook started in 2004, YouTube in 2005, and Twitter in 2006. And so it's funny that you're mentioning all the pictures and all this other stuff because there's a shift right around that time that everyone's like, wait a minute, social media, I don't even know if that was a coined term yet, but it's going to be a thing. So it's interesting that you picked up on that and someone helped guide you in that direction.
Yeah, and it's like graduating college, social media wasn't a huge thing. It was just getting off the ground. Everybody had a Twitter page, everybody had a Facebook page, but nobody knew exactly what to do with it. We didn't unlock the potential with that. And then about 2 years into my career, it was a thing. And we all had Facebook pages, and we all had Twitter pages. And over the past, I would say 3 years especially, it's blown up to the point where you can't survive as a journalist without being locked into social media on multiple fronts. Not just, you can't just have a Facebook page and say, okay, well, that's all I need. You have to have a Facebook page, you have to have a Twitter page, you have to have an Instagram page, you have to have a Periscope, you have to have LinkedIn, you have to have an OkCupid profile, you have to have you have to have
plenty
a
of
Snapchat. Yeah, exactly. No, but seriously, you have to be locked in on multiple fronts or you're not going to survive. Because that's kind of where things are going. Because people are not consuming their news just on TV screens anymore.
Largely, and for a lot of people, not at all, or largely not. One thing I like for great example, going back to the Corey Jones rally. I was, God knows what I was preoccupied with, but as much as I have on my plate, something was preoccupying me, and I wasn't able to go, and I wasn't able to watch it on TV. But I was able to watch your tweets. And so I was able to watch some videos from it and see like see what you quoted a couple people and I was like, that's what it is. Is that what makes the difference between a quote unquote multimedia journalist versus a quote unquote reporter? Because you have both titles.
Yes.
But is that the difference?
I think that's the exact difference. Yeah. Now that you mention it, that's the exact difference.
I never thought about it before.
I never really did. I have this title as an MMJ, a multimedia journalist.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to be a multimedia journalist? I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think back in the old days, a traditional reporter would just go out and they would do the interviews and they would write their story and their photog would put it together, edit and whatnot, and they'd be done. They wouldn't have to tweet, they wouldn't have to do all this other stuff. But we, as multimedia journalists, with the way the business is evolving, we're doing things on multiple fronts and multiple forms of media. As you mentioned, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. We're sending out video. We're sending out video teases, push alerts.
It's a whole different game.
It's a whole different game.
And the thing is, I think we all kind of figure out new angles to maximize it, like you're saying, teasers and stuff like that, or new ways to throw in a hashtag and ways to use it in different things. And it's really kind of, because I do social media for different for a few clients and stuff, but it's always like important to stay on that cutting edge of what everybody else is doing and what's new. And
we specifically have a guy at our station, Josh.
Yes.
You've been tweeting back and forth.
Yes. I'm a fan.
He's great. He is amazing at what he does, and he knows what he's doing.
Need an assistant, Josh.
And no, he might be listening and take you up on that. But he is responsible for just that, social media.
Yeah.
And that's what news stations need. That now.
Right.
Somebody to just handle social media, because it sounds like an easy job, but he's monitoring multiple fronts, monitoring hashtags.
Right.
And when breaking news happens, he is just on top of it on multiple laptops.
Right. I mean, there's a whole level of analysis that can go behind it. It's like companies are needing, like, literally, like you're saying, a social media specialist now, and it's
and their job
phenomenal.
is to just sit in front of a computer and just monitor and watch things all
sounds
day.
like heaven.
And it's not easy. I've watched what Josh does, and it's not easy.
Right.
Because if we don't look good on the social media front, it's on him.
But it's nice that you, as a multimedia journalist, as a reporter, have that person who is giving you that extra push and that extra support.
Yeah, he'll remind us, don't forget to tweet, or this person is doing this. You guys need to catch up to them. Follow their lead. We're constantly reminded to do that. And nobody told us in college, because this wasn't a thing.
Right? It wasn't a thing.
So it's not like we could prepare, or not like we had these tools. We kind of had to learn. I've been in the business for 4 years, and I've kind of had to learn on the fly how this whole social media thing works. Right. And it's been an interesting journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a good job.
I'd like to think so. There are people doing way better than me. I mean, there are days when I forget to tweet completely. Or I don't have anything to say. Good morning, everybody.
But it just leaves your audience waiting for more.
Yeah, I like to think so. You can put
me in the mouth. Come on, Jason.
Tweet me.
And going back to your preparation and stuff, when you were in college, I understand that you worked at the station, both the TV station and the radio station. You won a couple awards at the radio station. And excuse me, big loud motorcycle.
You can't tell we're doing a podcast.
I mean, hello.
It's obvious. Don't you see the
neon sign above my head floating there?
It's so rude.
But so what was that experience like? How much did that help you and prepare you? How much fun was that? What was it like?
It was a lot of fun. Radio is completely different from TV, because all you have is your voice. So you have to paint the picture with your voice and with ambient sound, with bad sound. Right. And it's just a completely different beast. And on top of it, you have more time to tell your story. So in TV, you have 1:15. You crank out, the nuts and bolts of your story. Get a couple sound bites in it. You're done. With radio, you have 3 to 5 minutes to tell your story, and it can be a little bit longer form and
more fleshed
and a little
out,
bit more involved, longer sound bites, stuff like that. I think radio taught me how important sound is to telling a story.
Can I ask you a quick question? Were you at the time when you did the radio thing? Because I don't know how big the radio station is that you have, but did people ever call in? That interaction?
No, okay, so it was an NPR.
So I'm thinking that's an additional difference between television and radio, but not in your.
Yeah, it was more of an NPR affiliate.
Gotcha.
It was basically an NPR affiliate. So you would do kind of longer form stories, issues in the community. I did a story on one of the awards I won was on UF's marching band, and just how much they have to prepare. And how much effort they have to put into preparing their performances when they get on the field on Saturdays. Right. And one thing that sticks out for that story is that I used that song Margaritaville.
Oh, okay.
By why am I forgetting things today?
By Buffett?
Jimmy Buffett.
Thank you.
And I used it.
Why am I saying thank you? You didn't say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I got to use it throughout the piece, and I kind of wrote into it, and it's like. If I can remember the line, it's like, they kept playing that part again. Da 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 da, and I kept showing how they played it over and over again. And I said something to the extent of, the band left the field while Jimmy was still searching for that lost shaker of salt.
Oh,
and it's
so poetic.
I'm really into creatively writing. Yeah, I feel like writing should not be bland.
Well, I was going to ask you how much creativity factors into what you do. How creative do you get to be?
It depends.
Yeah.
If it's a murder, if it's a hard news, if it's a violent crime, you can't necessarily be poetic. You have to get right to it. You know? This happened, this is what police say, you know.
You have to treat it with reverence.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're doing a story on, you know,
dogs wearing Spider-Man Halloween costumes?
Yeah, dogs wearing Spider-Man Halloween costumes, or people raising money for something, or, you know, somebody overcoming the odds, then you can let your creative juices flow.
Yeah.
And I love doing that.
That's so great.
I love storytelling. I consider myself a storyteller as much as I consider myself a journalist.
Do you ever want to have projects that are like exclusively writing, like short stories or novels or anything like that?
I've thought of it because I did a lot of writing. Coming up through school. I've written a lot of things. But I don't know. I don't think that's in the cards. I like doing things that are visual. You've gotten the bug now. Now that I've gotten the bug, I just want to do everything on Final Cut and Avid.
Makes sense.
And just produce visually intriguing things for people.
That's another way to do it. Definitely.
But I do take writing very seriously, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people in the industry are losing. I feel like the kids coming out of college, especially, are not as up to snuff when it comes to writing.
Right, I agree.
And I feel like that's important. I feel like your words have to grab people.
Okay, are you a grammar nerd?
I can be, but I do screw up every once in a while.
Because
I get the emails of people out there listen. I get the emails and I get the calls. This morning, we had a boo-boo in one of the strips, and somebody called in yelling at our producer.
Are you serious?
Yeah, people take grammar serious, as they should.
Yeah.
And I do. I mean, the difference between your and your. Yeah. The difference between there and there. Those are the basics, but people screw those up all the time.
Yeah, I can be. I was raised as a Grammy, you know, they say Grammy Nazi or whatever. That's how my dad raised me. I've tried to like loosen up a little bit, and I think I've successfully done it. But every time every once in a while it rears its ugly head again, and I'm like, that's not a sentence. Like, what are you doing? What's wrong there?
You would hate TV news because we write so weird sometimes. Like we leave out words, like, or we say like police saying blah 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 blah.
Well, see, I can get that because when I do social media, you have to be quip. You have to be.
Yeah.
But like, I'm thinking of, you know, just an actual full-fledged article, full-fledged story, full-fledged. I'm like, what are you doing?
There's no excuse for that.
Or someone's website, they're having their whole bio on their about page, and like, there's a clear grammar mistake. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, please.
Yeah, you stop reading. You get upset, you get angry, and you close the webpage. And that's why grammar is so important. Because you don't want people to read and like, oh, who wrote that?
Right. The confidence goes right down.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Okay. So anyways, so after you went to college, from what I understand, your first job was in Panama City.
Yes.
Is that true?
It was in Panama City, Florida, the world's most beautiful beaches. And that's our call letters for WMDB. So the world's most beautiful beaches.
Oh!
Yeah.
Hey, look at that! I didn't.
Exactly.
Woo! It's like the powdery white beaches, right?
Yeah, powdery sugar. What do they used to say? Sugar white sands and emerald blue waters.
The first and only time I've been to the Panhandle, other than like driving through for one reason or another on a road trip, was I can't believe I'm telling this story. I won't get into the details because that would be too much. But I was an EMT in college, and we as a crew, it was all students, and we as a crew took a road trip and rented a beach house there. And we did a lot of unsavory things while we were there, but I remember those beaches being so beautiful, and I will or will not admit to skinny dipping at the time, but it was a good time. Those beaches bring it out of people.
You wouldn't be the only one. They're too beautiful not to skinny dip.
Right?
I've never skinny dipped. Just for the record. Just for the record.
Okay, listeners, I actually believe him. But it sounds like a missed opportunity to me.
Because how could you not? It was it's the most beautiful place I ever lived.
Yeah.
And moving around Florida, you realize just how, because the beaches here are nice.
Yeah.
Palm Beach is really, really nice, but there's nothing like the Gulf Coast.
I agree.
And the waters over there and just the lifestyle. There are days when I miss it.
Was it laid back? What was the lifestyle like?
It was laid back. It was very much a beach community. And it was very much the south as well. People call Panama City, that area, Lower Alabama.
Yeah.
It's right, like Alabama is like a quick hour and a half drive north. And so you get those southern influences. I mean, that's where I was really exposed to sweet tea. Like I had bits and pieces of it before, but I got to Panama City and it was like sweet tea with lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
And before bed. You know.
Good luck into the kids with some sweet tea, please.
Exactly. Chick-fil-A was a part of every regular diet, as well as just bunches of soul food and southern macaroni and cheese and fried chicken and all that stuff.
Put some padding on you.
Yeah, exactly. I gained so much.
I can only imagine.
I gained at least 20 pounds at one point.
But it sounds like you had a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, it was worth it. I just couldn't go to the beach, with my shirt on.
I was actually just commenting the other day, randomly, about how it's kind of funny that if a man is, or woman, I guess, is a little heavier set, how they'll go to the beach wearing a shirt, but as soon as you get wet, it clings to you like crazy, and the cat's out of the bag.
It just makes it look worse. You look like you're like in a sausage case.
We've all been guilty of it one time or another in our life.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
For sure. So where did you go after the Panama? Oh, that was when you went to Cedar Rapids? Or?
Yeah, after Panama City. So I decided at that point in my life, and I don't know, we'll see how I look back at this decision in a few years. I decided that I had enough of Florida. I was born in Miami, went to school in Gainesville.
Yeah, you've been here your whole life.
Started in Panama City. I said, you know what? Florida's hot and flat. There's nothing here for me.
Yeah.
I want to see the country.
Yeah.
And so I made an effort. I told myself I have to get out of the state of Florida.
Yeah.
And so Iowa came calling,
yeah,
of all places.
Of all places.
And I said, you know what, I'll listen. I've never heard of Iowa. I don't know where it is in the country. I can put it out
I'm so glad you said that, because when I was looking at your bio and reading, I was like, okay, I hate to have to do this, but I gotta pull up a map of the United States just to be sure. I'm like, I know it's in this vicinity.
It's in what they call flyover country, because planes just fly over it. They don't stop there. You don't stop in Iowa. You just fly over it. And I went over there, and I love the station, and I love management there. And I said, you know what? It's a big step. It's something new. It's something different.
Right.
I'm all about adventure. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And the first year or so was absolutely miserable.
Really?
Absolutely
what was so
miserable.
hard? What was the most difficult part?
Being away from home.
Yeah.
I had never been so far from home.
Yeah.
And
because when you go to UF was how long of a drive?
it's like 4 hours from here.
So you could do like weekend trips randomly.
Yeah, and I was here.
Like
I was here. I mean, not often, but I was here. I saw my family at least more than once a year.
Yeah.
Whereas in Iowa, I saw them Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's totally different too when you're working versus being a student.
Exactly.
Your time. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And time was just passing me by. My sisters had 2 or 3 kids in the 2 years I was gone.
Oh man!
They were all growing up. They were talking. I was
must have been heartbroken.
Things. And on top of
breaking. There goes my grammar. That must have been heartbroken.
I hope you're judging yourself right now.
Totally judging myself.
Grammar Nazi. So I went up there, and on top of missing family, Iowa is not Florida.
Yeah.
So the weather up there is much different.
Yeah.
And I went up there in the middle of winter.
Oh, jeez.
And within a month, I got into an accident. I was driving on a highway
slick
there.
roads?
Yeah, driving on a highway in the middle of a blizzard, ran right off the highway into a guardrail, stuck there in my car. I'll never forget it. I was stuck there in my car. My phone was almost dead. I'm looking out the window. There's just snow coming down around me, and I'm like,
okay, why the hell didn't you have a car charger?
I don't know. I had an Android. The Androids are kind of weird with car chargers.
Yeah, blame it on the Android.
Yeah, no, I completely do. And so I'm looking out my left, and looking out my right out the window. I'm like, how did I wind up here?
Yeah.
What
just
kind
happened?
of life decisions did I make?
Oh, that level.
Yeah, and it was miserable, and winter just took a lot out of me. Being there in the winter took a lot out of me.
Yeah, that's a shock to the system.
Exactly. And on top of it, didn't have a lot of friends at that point. I was still trying to find my way. And and it was just miserable. And there was a point after that year of misery that I looked at myself and I'm like, okay, Jason, this is your life. You'll be here for another year.
Yeah.
You just got to get used to it.
Figure it out.
And I started to become more outgoing with coworkers. I tried to get more involved in events and more involved in things. I got closer to one of the reporters over there, Mugo. Her name is Mugo Digwe. She works in St. Louis. Hi, Mugo, if you're listening. Beautiful, gorgeous woman. Very talented, too. I got closer to her. Another reporter, Justin Andrews, he's working in St. Louis now. Got closer to him.
Awesome.
And just started to really slowly build my social circle.
Yeah.
And then the weather got better, which also helped.
Of course.
And then the ultimate turning point for me was getting on the anchor desk.
Well, you were a field reporter at the time? I'm still learning, like, the terminology.
Field reporter, NMJ.
Yeah.
I was going out there, I was running my camera in, 20-degree weather.
Oh, God.
Not very easy.
I didn't even think about that. You're just standing out there.
Yeah, doing live shots in negative 20.
Do you run in the van and, like...
Oh, yeah. In between shots, you'd run in, camera would sit out there and freeze, and you'd run in and get warm. And then 10 minutes before your shot, they're like, okay, we want you back out there. And I'm like, no, my
phones aren't ready yet.
Yeah, you see the camera, you see it's on, just wait. I'll be out there in a few minutes. I don't want to freeze to death, just wait. So yeah, everything started to get better. I finally got on the anchor desk because of a situation with our morning show.
Yeah.
And I never anchored before in my life. Never, other than college where I was on the anchor desk.
Right.
That was college anchoring.
Right.
It's a little bit different.
Very different.
It's bigger, it's different in the big leagues on the morning show.
Totally.
And I did that and I felt at home. It felt so good.
Right.
Yeah, just being a part of that.
You felt like your ass was finally in the right chair.
Yeah. You want to say that? Yes. And it was just, and I also had the greatest crew I could ever ask for. The morning crew and the PAs and the producers, PAs, production assistants, the guys that run cameras and do all that stuff. The PAs and the producers and the reporters, everybody I worked with, helped lift me up and lift me out of that funk I had been in for a year. And we just worked so well together. And it got to the point where people just loved the morning show.
Yeah.
People loved what we were doing. People loved the chemistry we had.
That's great.
And it got so good that they wanted me to stay. They wanted me to resign.
So you were on a 2-year contract?
I was on a 2-year contract.
Okay, gotcha.
And I at the end, towards the end, those last 6 months, I was looking at it like, wow, I can see myself potentially staying here in Iowa after all this.
Wow, what a turn.
Oh yeah, crazy turnaround.
Yeah.
And it really was a tough decision whether or not I should stay in Iowa or if I should leave Iowa. Like I agonized over it, asked friends, asked mentors, it was a good opportunity. But at the end of the day, Florida's home.
Yeah.
Family is an hour away. I can hop on I-95 and be home in an hour.
Yeah.
I'm heading down tomorrow to watch wrestling with my dad. It's a different story. We'll talk about my wrestling fandom in a second.
Oh, trust me, I have it on my bullet list.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting conversation. But I wanted to be closer to home, and I said, you know what, this is great. The opportunity you're offering me is great, but I want to be closer to home. And WPTV came calling.
Not a bad call to get.
They saw, I didn't realize, I got the call from them, and they came out and found me. I didn't apply, they found me.
What?
And
you go, boy.
And I'm like, it was just out of the blue, so random. And I got the call, I hung up, and then I did my research.
Do you know the backstory on how they found you?
No, I think they found me on some sort of database for reporters.
Interesting.
And I got the call. I'm like, okay, I'll think about it, and I hung up. And then I did my research, and I'm like, wait a minute, WPTV.
Wait a minute.
It's the #1 station in Florida, and it's it's the proper.
And you're like, so that thing about calling you back, I'm doing it now.
And the fact that Michael Williams worked here, and I grew up watching.
Yes.
He was on TV stations in Miami, and I'm like, I grew up watching that guy, and he's working at the station that wants me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so Iowa was great, but I said, you know what, I can't pass this up. If I turn this down, who knows? I'm gonna regret this.
But what ifs you're gonna have?
I'm gonna regret it. So I packed my bags and came back south, and
that was in March, right?
And that was in March, and I don't regret it because it's home. No matter how rough things are work-wise, and there are some tough days. Not every day is easy.
Yeah.
Some of the stories you cover, the workload.
Of course.
Our station, there are very high standards at our station. There's a very long history of.
Well, they're the top. They have a high-level quality brand.
Exactly, and there are days where it's tough. Their expectations are high. They want they want to turn a good product. And I come home just kind of like, okay, I just need to grab a glass of wine or like a beer and just sit down and just
breathe
and shake it off. And I know no matter how difficult things are getting at work, I always have my family. I can always call my mom and say, Mom, I'm going to come down. I want a hot meal. I want to talk to you about work.
But you know what? I think you can't find, I'm trying to think of the term. Blame it on the alcohol, I can't think of it. But, I don't think you could find a better crucible to define you and develop you and polish you than WPTV. I mean, there's a reason why it's my default channel, you know what I mean? Like, and no disrespect to WPBF and CBS 12, I love them too, but I was born and raised, grew up on WPTV, and they have a really high quality product. So for you to be there, like I said, it gave me such excitement to see. And I'd never met you before, but there was something that I felt like I was watching. Something happened with your career that was awesome, and I was super excited for you. And yeah, so I think you couldn't find a better place to be.
And not to throw the I guess the race card, quote unquote, into it, but the fact that I came down here and people saw another face like theirs on television meant a lot, and I have people come up to me, and they're proud of that, and that feels good.
Well, that's
because there's not many
definitely
of us.
There's definitely part of it.
There's not many of us.
That's absolutely part of it.
Not many of us at all.
No.
And when people too turn on the TV and they say, "Hey, that somebody looks like me," it helps with that trust level. And I want to be there to serve my community. Everybody in my community, but also other Black people in the community.
So you understand that with what you're doing comes a certain role model situation. Yes. That's great.
To get into my my nerd terminology, with great power comes great responsibility.
High five! Absolutely, Peter Parker. Well, no, Ben Parker. Kill me for misquoting. Oh my god.
Yeah, the nerds right now
I'm gonna get some heat.
But yeah, it's I see myself as a role model.
That's good.
If I appear at a school, people, those kids are, fascinated with what I do.
Yeah.
And they look up to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that holds some responsibility.
Yeah.
Because as journalists, we are the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
We hold the powerful accountable. We tell stories. We inform. And we need there needs to be a future.
Of course.
There needs to be kids that continue that tradition.
Right. Want to be the kid who is inspired by that and then wants to be the other side, like you were when you were little.
Exactly. I grew up, watching all the greats down in Miami, the Dwight Lauderdales of the world.
Dwight Lauderdale.
And I grew up watching them and saying, man, that would be really cool to do.
Yeah.
And now I'm here. And I'd like to think that kids are watching, not to put myself in the category of those guys, because I can't even, come close to sniffing them. But I would like to think that there's some inspiration that I provide.
Of course.
They watch and they're like, that's pretty cool.
Hello, you're on my podcast for a reason, and I'm not blowing up my podcast. It's because I specifically try to engage people who I feel like can be an inspiration for others who are listening. So I saw that in you, for sure. Random question, how many suits do you own? Like, this guy has to have a bunch of suits.
How many suits? You want to know the truth?
Yeah.
5 suits.
That's
not
a good
many.
number.
No, a lot of people own like 15, 20 suits. Like people who have just closets for suits.
Yeah.
And I just have like 1 or 2 that I rotate every week.
Yeah.
And try out different jacket combinations and whatnot. But I'm not like the type to have. I have a lot of ties. I have, no lie, maybe 100 ties.
Are you serious?
And they're all sitting in a bag on my floor.
Oh my Lord, have mercy!
I don't have a tie organizer or any sort of tie.
I know what to get you for Christmas.
So in the morning I get up and I just, okay, what time am I going to wear today? And just dump the entire bag of ties on my bed.
Okay, a little tip. Febreze makes this great de-wrinkler spray. You spray it on, you'll never know it was in a bag.
You're kidding me.
It's awesome.
There's a spray that de-wrinkles.
It's like an iron in liquid form. I'm telling you, best thing ever.
Okay,
I can't iron to save my life, but I can Febreze all day long. You're literally taking notes.
I'm opening up my note app right now.
I will take a picture of the bottle when I get home and send it to you. It is the gift that keeps on giving. I was working at this company, and I was just commenting. There was a girl walking down the hall, and I was commenting. I'm like, that is such a beautiful dress. Da, da, da. She randomly started telling me about how she had Febreze it that morning to get rid of the wrinkles on the what? Tell me about this miracle, please.
I'm reminding myself right now. Here are the notes. Febreze wrinkle spray. And of course,
can't go wrong.
And of course, with Siri, it comes up with Febreze wrinkle spray. Because that's what Febreze is.
Well, it's okay. When I was trying to text you, when you said you were on your way, it took me 3 times to get autocorrect to stop wanting to text you cookie. And I was trying to say Coolio. Like, no, I don't want to say cookie.
Coolio isn't a default
I guess
on the Apple
apparently
keyboard.
not.
That's
Apparently
it.
not.
We need to write a letter to
Dang it.
to Apple about that.
So it sounds like, and I watched you, and I don't know if you saw my friend Lynn, when she responded back to my tweet this morning. She's like, one half of the dynamic duo, and you and Tyler have such a natural camaraderie on screen. I mean, how comforting is it to come into a situation where you just kind of, I mean, I'm assuming that was the case. I mean, it just seems like you guys naturally flowed into each other.
Yeah, and I've only been at the desk with him a few times.
Yeah.
And it just seems as if, we connect.
Yeah.
It's really.
I feel like there's like a little bromance going on.
Yeah, we called the first couple of weeks. We called it the Bro Show.
The Bro Show.
It's great just having somebody that you can play off of.
Yeah.
Because TV is personality driven. You
Of course.
You have to have a personality to.
Now more
to
than
make
ever,
it.
I think people expect to know a
Yeah.
little bit about who you are.
Unfortunately, sometimes it's too personality driven with. On both sides of the spectrum.
Spit electric. Very true.
Yeah, I mean, whether you look at the Bill O'Reillys of the world, or on the other side,
Right.
the Rachel Maddow's of the world,
Right,
it's very
right.
personality like
Extremely.
driven by loud people,
Right,
yelling at
right.
each other and spitting out their opinions.
Right. It's gone from being the talking heads, it's almost like it's the yelling heads at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't watch any of that crap.
I know. It's
not-
hard sometimes.
I've
It's
not
really
turned
hard.
on MSNBC or Fox in a very long time.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to watch cable news, I watch CNN.
Yeah.
Which
It's
sometimes
much more
can be,
the middle ground, but it sometimes can be a little bit
Yeah.
like too middle ground.
Yeah, a little bit. And sometimes they're really sloppy. At times.
At times.
I have people that I know that work over there, so I don't want to run them under the
Well,
bus,
they're
but
amazing.
sometimes-
I mean,
Yeah, they do.
obviously, you just slipped me a note and said, amazing. They are, in particular.
CNN is wonderful. CNN is great. I would love to work there. Please don't hold this against me.
Blame it on alcohol that you're actually not drinking.
Yeah, I have not had a sip. It's been this water to get rid of this funnel cake
mouth.
this entire time.
Oh my god. I totally lost track of what I was gonna say.
No, but the last 2 people I worked with in terms of being at the anchor desk.
Yeah.
Tyler here, and then Justin Roberts, a guy over in Cedar Rapids.
In
at
Iowa,
Channel 2.
Waterwa. What was I? Where did Waterwa come from in Iowa?
I'm pretty sure that's a city in Iowa somewhere.
Probably.
They have the weirdest city names over there. There's Sigourney. There's it's spelled Sigourney, but they pronounce it Sigourney.
Sigourney.
There's an Iowa, Iowa.
Sorry.
I
No
swear.
disrespect, but what?
There's an OWA, Iowa. Yeah.
I'm thinking of some really inappropriate jokes right now. Oa.
Yeah, we'll have those jokes on the uncensored version of the podcast. Coming up right after this, so stay tuned.
God. That's so funny. But
yeah, he was a trip. He was absolutely like, from the minute I came in, I'll never forget this, and hopefully I don't have this held against me. The previous anchor was a female on that morning show. So my first morning in, the first thing out of the gate, I'm nervous. I never anchored before.
Yeah.
And the anchor guy, or the weather guy, Justin, who's my co-anchor, was like, yeah, looks like our regular anchor went off and had a sex change. Said that right on air. And I'm like, oh my God, they're not going to let me do this again, are they? This is the last time I'm gonna.
This is my introduction. Oh my God!
And I'm like a deer in headlights, and I'm like, okay, well, there you go. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
And that just kind of epitomized, like, me and him. If you go search on my YouTube page, just tons of stuff.
Wait, what was his name again?
His name is Justin Roberts.
Okay, I don't know if he was the one. I noticed that because I'm just thinking of. I think sometimes friends are a reflection of who you are. You know, you are the company you keep in a lot of cases. And when I was doing my little background research on you and looking at your Facebook page, I saw a picture that you posted. I'll refresh your memory of yourself, and then your friends chimed in and made them some memes. This is from way back, and I just thought that is hysterical that your friends would do that. Just made me laugh. It made me feel like, okay, he really has a sense of camaraderie with the people he works with and is around.
You didn't go far back enough. This blew up my Facebook page. A while ago, I was doing a story on, I think it was like Labor Day travel or something like that. And I wore one of those vests, one of those reflective vests that you have to wear on the side of the highway.
Yeah. Safety vests, yeah.
And so I took a picture, and it was like really dark in the background, and it was just me in this really bright vest.
I feel like I know where this is going.
And I posted it on Facebook. And I'm like, yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah. It was dark behind me, and here I am standing here. And my friends took it, and they photoshopped the heck out of it. One of my friends put me in a genie lamp.
A genie lamp?
One of my friends put me in like a dress with unicorns. Another one put me like in front of Bane in the Dark Knights. Like they had Bane in the foreground and me in the background, and I'm standing with my hands on my hips. And like, I really have to show this to you. I don't know if this doesn't play well over the podcast.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
It's the most amazing series of pictures. I can pull it up really quick. I have it all on my Instagram page.
That's so funny.
But people can't see this right now. But people did stuff like that.
Stop it. Oh, that's hysterical.
And stuff like that with me and the Little Mermaid.
I did see that one. I didn't know the context of it, but that is hysterical.
It was a picture that I posted, and people just went crazy. And it was all my friends from Iowa because those people love me and I love them. And they went crazy on it. Yeah, I will talk about those people from Iowa very fondly because they were among the greatest people I've ever known in my life.
That's so sweet. And it's nice to hear a story of someone who at first was struggling with the change because it can be a shock to the system. I mean, I'm a big proponent of if you have an opportunity to go away and travel and see someplace else, you should do it. And I went to college in New Orleans. I mean, I'm from here, but I went to college in New Orleans, went to law school in Virginia, so I definitely saw some totally different areas.
Absolutely.
And so it's great to hear a story of someone who was a total fish out of water, was miserable, but then once your mindset changed, your circumstances changed.
Exactly.
And that's a beautiful story. I love it.
I love it. All about changing my outlook. And once I changed my outlook, everything opened up to me.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where my last day, my going away party, was nothing but tears on both sides. Everybody crying because I was leaving. And I'm just in a hot mess. Am I going away at this bar, and everybody's having a couple of drinks, and it just turns into this sob fest. It was crazy.
Well, clearly they meant a lot to you.
Yeah, they meant a lot to me, and I'll never forget. I will never forget, and I will never regret that portion of my life.
Yeah.
And I like to think I was sent there for a reason.
Of course.
My mom always told me everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I grew up in a religious family, and she told me that God does everything for a reason.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was sent there for that reason, to meet that group of people and have them enter my life and realize, as bad as things look sometimes, you just gotta change your outlook and open yourself up.
Right.
And amazing things will happen.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Amen.
No pun intended, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I had
Amen to that.
a little bit of church.
That's okay. God is good. So let's talk sports and pro wrestling.
Yes.
And by us, I mean you, because I know nothing about any of that stuff. So tell me about your love with sports and pro wrestling.
Well, sports began. So it's Dolphins. It's Gators.
Oh, right. You mentioned.
It's the Marlins, except they're not doing too well lately. And my relationship with the Heat, very, very weird. I was on board. Dwayne Wade came to the team in 2003. I was on board with them throughout all that. When they got Shaq, I was on board with them throughout all that. When they won the championship in 2006, I was at the parade after they won the championship.
As a reporter, as your
no, just
randomly, I was gonna say as yourself. How I mean, you know what I mean?
No, I was as myself. Yeah. And I was into it, and then they got LeBron, and I'm like, okay, this is not. I don't care as much anymore because I felt like we were just kind of the super team. Was destined to win.
They feel like the competition got lost.
Yeah, I love that team in 2006. It was just so. It was Dwayne. It was Shaq. It was who else was on that team? I'm drawing a blank right now. But it was such a good Antoine Walker. It was such a good, fun team. And I don't know.
I had a weird relationship at that time because at that time I was working, if I remember correctly. Oh my God, I think I remembered correctly.
Right.
Because the only team when I was a kid, like, I loved the Bulls. The Bulls are big when I was a kid, and I loved the Chicago Bulls. I was all about the Bulls and Jordan, blah, blah, blah. But the only other time that I've really followed a team was back at that time. I was working for a company where I was traveling. I was representing them in court.
Okay.
And they had me traveling all over the country, and for some reason I became the Cleveland girl. So I was literally flying to Cleveland 2-3 times a week.
Wow. My condolences.
It was all in the winter.
It's Cleveland.
I actually fell in love with the city, but I think that's because I had the luxury of leaving. But anyways, so that was at the time when LeBron and Shaq were there, and it was, they were on the brink of being on top of the world, right? So I was a huge Cavs fan. I mean, I had a license plate frame on my car and a sticker on my car, and so I would drive around back home in Florida with representing the Cavs. I just loved them. I went to a game almost every time I was up there. And then when LeBron moved to Miami, it was such like, I didn't know how to feel about it. I was so confused because I'm like, okay, well, he's moving to my home team, but he's betrayed, according to how Cleveland and everyone felt, betrayed them. I didn't know how to feel. It was this really weird, awkward time.
Smashed everybody's hearts.
Right.
I remember watching that decision. I remember watching it live.
Right.
And him announcing, I'm taking my talents to South Beach.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was exciting.
Yeah.
As a Heat fan.
Yeah.
But I could also just imagine how heartbreaking, because the city of Cleveland has never won anything.
Nothing.
We know this. The Browns have always sucked.
Always
the Cavs has always sucked.
Yeah.
The Indians have always sucked.
Yeah. It was a big deal for them to have that team.
Exactly. And he just drove the stake right through their heart.
Yeah.
And they haven't, they still haven't won. He's back there now, and he still hasn't won.
Right.
And they may never will.
They may never. Yeah. But so it was a weird. So you said the Dolphins, the Marlins. Let me ask you a question, because you mentioned before you were a huge Back to the Future fan.
Yes.
And of course, we just had October 21st. Please tell me I'm right. Thank you. 21st passed, but thank you. Did you get a sense, following the sports community, did you get a sense that there were people that otherwise wouldn't have been rooting for the Cubs that kind of were rooting for the Cubs just because of the circumstances?
Yeah. No.
Or are people so rooted in their affiliations?
I think people are so rooted. If you're not rooting for the Cubs, you're not going to all of a sudden root because, of a prediction in a movie that's 20 years old.
Right.
You'd like to think that people's sports, loves are influenced by Back to the Future, because my entire life is influenced by Back to the Future. But that's a different story.
Did you know, side note, Nike has created
the self-lacing shoes?
Yes.
I saw that.
So cool.
And then the hoverboards are out there as
I know.
And they're still kind of working in progress,
on it.
But
I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson. Please tell me you're familiar with it. Thank God, okay, you're a real nerd. Just checking your nerd card. He tweeted out the other day, like, hoverboards need to be improved. I'm working on it. I'm like, yes.
If there's any one person that I would trust to be, improve hoverboards, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Absolutely.
He's amazing. I have such a nerd crush on him.
I follow his Twitter page.
Oh, he's awesome.
Him and Bill Nye. I just want to sit down.
Bill Nye, the science guy.
Bill. That was my show growing up.
Oh, me too. So fun.
I would love to sit down with them, and they would be completely just smarter than me. They would just talk right over my head. But I would just like to sit there and just listen.
Right. While the drool dribbles down your shin.
You go.
You go. Yeah. I definitely have my list of people that if I ever was in a room with them, I would literally melt into a puddle.
Who are those people who turn around the tables on you?
Okay, sure. Well, I would say the number one is really outside the box, but the number one person, I would do anything to meet him, John Williams. He is going by the blank stare on your face.
The composer?
Oh my God, you know who he is!
Of course.
I'm so excited, you know who he is!
We were just talking about that.
Shut up.
We went
No,
to Orlando the other
Stop
day.
it, you
and
were
we were
not.
walking through Jurassic
You
Park.
were not just talking about John Williams.
And then we were walking through the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Ah!
And it's like, this man scored
Amazing.
two of the greatest movies.
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Let me list some off for you. You ready?
Ready.
Speaking of Indiana Jones, Jaws, E.T., and all the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Schindler's List, The Today Show, its opener,
and
NBC Nightly News' opener.
Olympics. Don't forget the Olympics.
The Olympics. I mean, I could go on. Superman.
You're forgetting a big one.
Wait. Don't challenge me.
Huge one.
Well, Jurassic Park and you mentioned Harry Potter, Home Alone.
Right. You're forgetting a big one. There are
like,
people,
right, but no.
There are people yelling.
Wait. Oh my God. I feel like my face is going to melt off in shame.
It sure is.
Hold on. What am I forgetting? I'm like literally picturing my old school CD case full of his orchestrations.
Come on.
Oh my God.
It's a big one. I've never seen any of them, but it's a big one.
Okay, that's a clue.
Yes.
I think, so Jurassic Park, as we mentioned, Indiana Jones we mentioned, Jaws we mentioned, Harry Potter. Oh my God,
Language!
This is me walking away in shame.
Wow. I've never even seen it.
Yeah, right now I have to brand this explicit. Dang it.
Wow, an explicit podcast from Jason Hackett channel. People are going to tune in thinking that I just dropped F-bombs all over the place. And I just...
My bad.
Wow. All right. Well, there you go.
My bad. I can't believe I missed that one, but you're right.
Yes.
And I'm so excited that you knew that.
I'm very much into orchestrated music and
really?
very much into movie
Me
soundtrack.
too.
I have like all the Marvel movie like themes on my phone.
Stop it. So my son, when you mentioned this morning about, joke or not, that you have a Spider-Man costume from your dog, immediately I thought, oh my God, I have one for my kid, because he was Spider-Man last year for Halloween. He wants to be Spider-Man again, and he knows the Spider-Man movies, literally the Tobey Maguire ones, the good ones. He knows them front to back by heart, 3.5 by heart. But one of his favorite parts are the openers. Yeah. Because he'll just go around and act heroic and like a superhero throughout the entire apartment, just to the music. I'm like, wow, chip off the old block.
Well, that Danny Elfman score.
It's amazing. I mean,
this is amazing that you know these.
High fives. High fives. We're just going to keep doing that throughout the entire podcast. That is so yeah, he would be, and it's funny because, and I've thought about this a lot when it comes to like if I could meet anybody or have a conversation, those like questions, and I have certain people that I idolize and feel like I would love to meet them, like Drew Barrymore or Steven Spielberg. Like I feel like Drew is like the white version of me, like honest to God, like not even joking. I never told that to my brother, and he calls me one day, it was years and years ago, he calls me one day, he's like, Jemmy, I just saw this movie, you have to see it. I'm like, oh my God, calm down. What? He's like, 50 First Dates. I'm like, okay, why? He's like, she's you. He's like, she is you. You need to watch this. You need to see it. I'm like, okay. And I watched it. I'm like, oh my gosh, she is me. Like, that's just so weird. So, and it's funny because I feel like if I had to boil it down to one, I mean, not only is he the person I just would die to meet in the first place, but he also knows Drew Barrymore and Steven Spielberg. So it'd be, you know what I mean? Like, hello, right there. So
yeah, for him to come up, just going back to John Williams, for him to come up with so many iconic scores.
Gosh.
Just, I wonder what kind of mental process he goes through when he writes.
You know what I've always wondered, and this is another reason why I want to sit down with him, because I've always wondered what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Are the scenes filmed first and then he scores to them, or does he have a score? Because the scores are so beautifully architected.
Right.
Is that a word?
Orchestrated?
Maybe I like it better.
Okay.
So beautifully orchestrated.
Right.
that you have to wonder, how could he do that to something that's already pre-edited visually? So I've always wondered what comes first. I want to find out.
And just to bring it around back to journalism, I think he watches the visuals and then he makes the music.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we have to do. We have to sit there. When we finish shooting a story, you go back and you go through all your video, you see what you have, and then you write to that video. And I think that's what he does.
True. I would love to pick his brain. It's amazing.
We'll get him on the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. You make a couple calls for me, Jason. Let's get it done.
I'll use my connection. I'll just call my old friend Steven.
Oh my God.
Hey Steven, what's up?
As a self-proclaimed nerd, so I have to ask you another question before I forget.
Yes.
I did happen to catch that way back in the day, you worked for an extraordinarily distinguished establishment. Chuck E. Cheese.
I dug that up.
I did dig that up. Well, what sucked about it the most? I have a friend who used to be who used to play Chuck E. Cheese, and she had it out with a couple of kids at the time. She hated it.
I think the time that a kid punched me in the groin.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was wearing the Chuck E. suit.
Oh, were you?
And I was wandering around, running around, being silent, and just doing
right, jazz hands.
And yeah, exactly, jazz hands. And this kid just comes and he just whop.
What?
And I can't scream in pain.
Right.
Because Chucky is not allowed to scream in pain. And it was just the most rude thing for a child to do. But that was pretty awful. Working at the merchandise counter when things
the one where
really
they have the tickets and they turn it. Yeah.
When things got really crazy and kids were kids were cranky and parents were cranky and they just wanted their merchandise. And they were 10 tickets short, and they wanted you to give them things anyway. That's when you saw tempers flare, and we would have to get security every once in a while.
There's nothing worse than a parent who sets a bad example for their kid.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, but I worked in retail for a number of years at a couple different stores, Michael's being the main one, and there's nothing worse. I mean, a kid unruly is one thing, but a parent that encourages it, I mean, it just always boggles my mind.
I can't stand it. Walking into stores and seeing kids act out. Like my mom, who's a strong Jamaican woman, would never allow that to happen. She was very, very strict and stern with us.
Yeah.
And the minute we embarrassed her in a store,
forget it.
Yeah.
All bets are off.
She'd give you that look. And
that was all you needed?
You're going home and she's going to tan your eye.
She's going to handle business.
That
was all you needed. So as a self-proclaimed nerd, I also have to ask you, what's your favorite piece of reporting equipment, both outside and inside the studio? It seems to me like there are a lot of little fun toys, from the camera to whatever display equipment you're using. Do you get to play with any fun equipment?
GoPros really enhance the way we tell stories, because if we're doing a ride along with police or somebody is doing something where they're riding or driving or moving into something, you strap a GoPro right to their head, and it gives you a perspective and story.
Yeah, I never thought about that for some reason with the
and you can add that, and you can kind of splice that into your story, and it just adds a lot to it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the coolest thing. And then we have one reporter, one photog at our station. His name is Ian, and he does an amazing job with GoPro. He's the guy to go to for GoPro stuff.
Go-to GoPro guy?
Yeah, exactly. And he's fantastic. It really enhances the story. So that's probably my favorite thing.
Yeah. Have you ever been up in the chopper? Is that picture from the chopper the one that was memed?
That's from the chopper.
Oh, I'm so jealous!
That was my first
I want to get Johan on the podcast. Kind of, honestly, half of me is just because I'm a huge fan, but also because I'm kind of hoping he offers me a ride in the chopper. I've never been in one before. I've never been in one before.
Do the podcast from the chopper.
That would be amazing.
That would be great. I would love to sit down and ask him how he does that, because he's up there for an hour.
I know.
Longer.
There was a time, maybe it was last spring. We had so much rain that my development flooded, totally flooded. I remember I packed my kid in the car to take him to school. I couldn't go 10 feet to get out of my neighborhood. I ended up calling my boss and I sent him pictures. I'm like, I can't. There's nothing I can do. It's a river. And so he's like, just take the day off. Great boss, take the day off. Blah, blah, blah. So at one point I just was walking because it was neat. The lake lies in the center of the neighborhood, and it had the bank of it had just risen like crazy.
Right.
And so we're going for a walk around it, and here comes Johan's helicopter right on top of us, and he tweets that he was there, and I'm like, I think that's so I tweet him back. I said, Johan, I'm waving, and he tweeted back. He's like, hello from up here, and I was like, that's so cool.
You know,
Big fan.
I met him maybe like once.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He's always up in the chopper.
Yeah,
and he doesn't really come into the station, but it's really cool what he does.
Yeah, super cool. I think it's really cool what you do, and I think you recognizing yourself as a member of the community who is a role model, and for you to be, I think you're such a rising star, and I'm so excited to see where your career is going, to see your dream coming true. I feel like it's just an amazing thing to witness, and to have you on the podcast has been an absolute dream. So thank you so much for being on. Is there anything else you want to say, to plug or to mention?
I don't know. I feel like we got it all covered.
Yeah.
Watch us. That would be nice.
And when exactly can they find you?
They can find me weekdays usually, sometimes weekends, but usually weekdays. 5. Well, it depends. My schedule's kind of all over the place. Like sometimes you'll find me at 5 and 6. Sometimes you'll find me at 10 and 11.
Yeah.
Just watch all day.
All day.
And you'll eventually see me
exactly.
on television.
That's a good tip.
And I'm a huge pro wrestling fan.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah. Tweet me anything about pro wrestling. I love it. I would not mind getting into a conversation about it. Specifically WWE. That's my thing. I love WWE.
So I have a friend. Well, first of all, two of my friends are huge pro wrestling fans.
Right.
One is the friend of mine that I mentioned worked for Chuck E. Cheese, also as the bounce or rat or whatever. Her husband is a huge pro wrestling fan. And then I have a good friend named Jay who's on what I call my pod squad. We do a couple of random episodes about things. Right. He's a huge pro wrestling fan. And so, it's one of those things that I've never quite understood, but I can totally understand, like, the passion about it.
There's no use understanding it. Just accept it.
Who are your favorites? Who are your favorites?
My favorite wrestler is Daniel Bryan.
Okay.
He's not wrestling right now. He's injured.
Oh.
But
good vibes, Daniel Bryan. Good vibes.
And this is so dorky, but his storyline a couple of years ago, where he was like this underdog that had to fight back against the authority to make it to the top. I related to that so much that, like, when he finally won the championship, I got emotional. I was there at WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans, in the arena, and he won the championship.
You are so funny.
And I was emotional. I was like, yes, finally, he beat the man. He beat the authority. He's an underdog, just like I am. He wasn't supposed to make it. He was small and a nerd and blah 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 blah. And look at him, he's on top. And I kind of relate to that.
That's awesome.
I'm the eternal underdog. I really like to consider myself that, and that is what keeps me motivated.
Keep that mindset, but I think in reality, you've already overcome it, and I'm really proud of you.
I appreciate
and say congratulations.
That. I appreciate that.
Would you like to sign off the podcast? It's super easy.
Okay.
All you'll have to say is, this is Jason Hackett, and this has been Curve the Cube.
Okay. Do I do it in like a broadcaster voice?
However you want.
So this is Jason Hackett, and this has been Curve the Cube.
Curve the Cube.
Curve the Cube. This has been Jason Hackett, and you have been listening to Curve the Cube.
Yeah, I love it. High five.
High five.
Yeah, great podcast.
That was awesome.
You're so cool.
I've always wondered what it would be like on a podcast. I listen to wrestling podcasts all the time. And some of the NPR podcasts, like This American Life and some of the other ones.
Dig into the Nerdist podcast. Speaking of nerd,
I've tried.
There's an episode with CM Punk. Are you a CM Punk fan?
Huge CM Punk.
Okay, there's an episode. It's actually from a Comic-Con. I think they taped it at a Comic-Con.
Recently?
No, it's old, so you're gonna have to dig through. It's maybe about 60 or 70 episodes back. But find it. It's a good one.
Okay.
It's a good one. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, Chris Hardwick. That show at midnight is hilarious.
Love it.
And he is.
I have
the ultimate nerd.
So a total intellectual crush on Neil deGrasse Tyson. Total career crush on Chris Hardwick. I want his career
Yeah.
and I want it now.
He could do that, and then he goes off and he does talking.
I'm like, I hate you. I hate you. So jealous.
Also, a bunch of other nerds.
So amazing.
Yeah, his career is kind of awesome. Now that I think about it.
Totally awesome. He was my inspiration for studying this. So, and his boss was actually on my podcast because because he and I went to the same high school.
Okay.
And so a friend of mine, I was meant to, we're still on the air, but whatever. I was talking to, this is the extra. I was talking to a friend of mine who turns out went to my high school, but she was like 4 years ahead, so we never crossed paths. And she's like, well, Adam Reimer went to our high school. And I'm like, Adam Reimer? She's like, yeah, the president of Nerdist Industries. I'm like, whoa.
And what was your high school again?
Pinecrest.
Right.
So I totally name dropped and said, I would love to have you. And he called up and we did one over the phone. It was awesome. So
really?
I was like 1 degree away from Chris Hardwick. It was like a dream come true.
How long have you had this podcast around?
A year. It's actually, it was a year ago on Tuesday. And my anniversary guest was Congresswoman Lois Frankel, and it was so exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so
you're
exciting.
pulling in the big names.
I'm trying.
I'm like a small fish in this big
Stop
pond.
it! No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Cool.
Your inspiration is great. So, all right, let's officially sign off, and then we can chill.
Okay.
All right. Adios, listeners. Thanks.
You have successfully curved the cube.